Welcome to the NFL Divisional Props Show here on Vegas Insider. Kevin Rogers with you, and we're down to 8 teams now in the NFL playoffs. And we have 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, and we'll break down the props for each of these games. And let's get it started as we bring on Bijolle and Sam Wagman, and they are joining us once again. And there are 6 total prop plays for the 4 games. And let's begin with Saturday, the first game inside the AFC. It's Jacksonville and Kansas City meeting up at Arrowhead Stadium. The Chiefs, the top seed in the AFC, they were off last week. Jacksonville was off in the first half against the Chargers, but they came back from 27-0 down, and they upset LA to advance to the second round. The Chiefs obviously favored here at home. But a couple props we have for this game, both concentrated on the Jaguars, and we will start with Bijolle. And Jill, what is your top prop for this Jacksonville-Kansas City game?
Yeah, so I am looking at Zay Jones to have over 4.5 receptions. He is one of the big 2 weapons that Trevor Lawrence has used all season. Recorded this season, he had 82 receptions, 823 yards with 5 touchdowns. And overall, when Zay Jones is playing on the field for Jacksonville just plays better. Something I've noticed. Regular season, they did play the Chiefs. Zay went 8 of 10 receptions, recorded 63 yards, and did have a touchdown. Last week against the Chargers in that miraculous comeback, he went 8 of 13 receptions, 74 yards, and 1 touchdown. Kansas City's defense is facing a completely different Jags team than their last meeting in Week 10. Since that meeting, the Jags have won 7 of their last 8 games. Kansas City's defense will try and limit that run game. However, I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence to have some deep throws with Zay being on the receiving end of those.
All right, and now let's look at the quarterback of the Jags, Trevor Lawrence, and Sam Wagman has a prop that he likes for the former top pick who has never lost on a Saturday in his career, amazingly. Granted, 36 of those wins came at Clemson and 1 came last week with the Jags. But Sam, what do you like with Trevor Lawrence on Saturday?
Yeah, and I'm looking at a slightly contrarian play for Trevor Lawrence because you look at these 2 teams, both of them seem like they're going to throw an absolute ton, which definitely makes sense given that both the Chiefs and the Jaguars are weak against the pass. But I'm looking at Lawrence to go under 34.5 for his longest completion. And he did not complete one in Week 10 the last time these 2 teams played. The longest pass play was a 29-yard pass to Christian Kirk. For the Chiefs, the over has only hit against them in 7 out of 17 games this year. And teams really haven't been able to throw deep against them, given that the Chiefs like to keep receivers in front of them and not let them get behind. And they've been very good at doing that, led by L'Jarius Sneed and their safeties as well. Trevor Lawrence, on the other hand, only threw for a completion over 34.5 in 7 of his 17 games as well, making this both sides where it's been less than a 50% hit rate. The Chiefs ran heavy man coverage in the first matchup, which means they're turning their backs to the quarterback, and they're really trying not to let Trevor Lawrence beat them deep. Christian Kirk benefited from this, but his longest pass was only 29 yards, and Marvin Jones had a 33-yard catch as well, but both of these went under the 34.5-yard receiving mark. Kansas City has also been the best team in the NFL since this Week 10 matchup against slot receivers, despite playing multiple games against Jerry Jeudy, a game against Keenan Allen, and a bunch of other star slot receivers as well. The Chiefs will bring pressure to try and force Trevor Lawrence off kilter and make him throw passes that really aren't there. And I think they'll really excel at this, making it a really tough day for Trevor Lawrence through the air, which is going to be Andy Reid's strategy since the Chiefs will try and shut down Travis Etienne on the ground game.
Well, we'll see how Trevor Lawrence does his first road playoff start after the big comeback, the 4-touchdown, 4-interception game last week, which obviously is one of the oddest stat lines you'll ever see. So we'll see how that turns out on Saturday afternoon. Now, Saturday night in Philadelphia, it's the Eagles and the Giants meeting up for the 3rd time. Philadelphia off last week with the bye, and now Jalen Hurts getting his first home playoff game after they lost last year to the Buccaneers in the first round. And the Giants played very well in their win against Minnesota last week. So we'll see if the Giants can carry that over again this week to Philadelphia. And Jill, you have a prop you like on Danny Dimes on Daniel Jones.
I do. Give me a Danny Dimes anytime score. I've actually used this prop a few times this season, and it has hit. So I might be a little biased, but it is one of my favorite props. He has become the first player in the NFL history to throw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and also rushed for 70 yards in a playoff game. Last week, he did rush more than Saquon, who is their running back number 1. He did have 7 rush touchdowns on the regular season. He does love to use his legs, and he is good at it. We also saw him rush a touchdown in against the Eagles in Week 15. While Philadelphia's defense is definitely going to be looking to limit those on-the-ground plays, especially because of Saquon, I just have a feeling we are going to see some trick plays like we did see last week, that amazing trick handoff where he was able to get the ball down the field. So I really do like Danny Dimes to get in. And can Philly play ugly? The New York Football Giants are the best team at playing ugly. And realistically, in the last few weeks of the season, they've gotten really good at playing ugly. And I just don't know if Philly is going to be able to keep up with just how ugly they can play.
Yeah, we'll see if the Giants, who have been a great underdog this year, I mean, notwithstanding this, we're talking about props here, but the Giants as a great underdog this season, if they can hang with Philadelphia, and obviously a lot of that will be on Daniel Jones's shoulders. Now on the Philadelphia side, with A.J. Brown, who has obviously been the big target for the Eagles since coming over from Tennessee. Sam, what do you like with A.J. Brown coming up on Saturday against the Giants?
Yeah, I'm taking another longest play here, and I'm going to take his longest reception over 25.5. You can find that at -120 on BetMGM. A.J. Brown's been the guy for the Eagles in both games against the Giants this season. He's gone for 4 of 95 in the Week 18 game, and he also went 470 and a touchdown in the earlier season game. Both of these games, he's gone over this number. His long was 33 in the first game, and his long was 37 in Week 18. In addition to this, he's also gone over in 12 of 17 games. Jalen Hurts loves throwing the ball deep to A.J. Brown, and this number really should be around 28 or 29 instead of where it is at 25.5, and I see a lot of value there because this is the first game back for Jalen Hurts where he should theoretically be at full strength throwing the football. We didn't really see him throw it that much in the Week 18 return game against the Giants. He still managed to get the ball downfield to A.J. Brown, who, if you guys remember correctly, is one of the best yards after catch receivers in the entire NFL. And this is the first game back for Jalen where he should be throwing at full strength. That's a big deal for the Eagles. They're going to look to get behind the Giants, who play a heavy man coverage play. 46% of the time, they run cover 1, and A.J. Brown's stats against cover 1 are elite. 40% target share, 4.32 yards per route run, and an A.DOT of 14. Those are huge numbers for any player, and not just one of the best receivers in the NFL. Even if they switch to 3, which they will do if they get down against the Eagles, A.J. Brown averages 3.32 yards per route run against that as well. And the Giants have allowed a 26-yard completion or higher in 15 of their 17 games this year. The Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL, and they're one of the best at throwing the football with Jalen Hurts this year. Do not overlook the Eagles. They may be getting talked down against the Giants team that has managed to play very well recently. But I think this Giants team runs out of luck this weekend.
Yeah, and this Eagles team already has beaten the Giants twice. They handled them that first time at MetLife Stadium. The second time, Giants kind of mailed it in Week 18. But now Jalen Hurts, we'll see what he does here. And he's had a great year with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and guys like that. We'll see if that keeps up coming up on Saturday. Now we transition to Sunday, and the Bengals play the Bills in Buffalo. And the Bengals offense struggled a bit last week in their win over the Ravens. They needed that defensive touchdown late to break the 17-17 tie. Joe Burrow didn't have great numbers, but again, Joe Burrow so far in his career, 4-1 in the playoffs, pretty impressive. Now Burrow hits the road to face Josh Allen and the Bills. So Jill, what do you like, or what are you looking at with Joe Burrow and one of his props?
Yeah, so I am actually looking at Joe Burrow to go under 276.5 passing yards. So let's set the tone on this one. This is a rematch of a game that we saw some traumatic things that happened on the field. This is a long-awaited matchup to be played. The defense does have motive on Buffalo's side to play and play hard for obvious reasons. Last week, they tripped up the Dolphins' offense. Granted, I know it's the Dolphins' third-string quarterback. They did get 11 quarterback hits, however, and they were really able to make Skylar Thompson uncomfortable. I fear they are going to do the same thing for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, his pass protection isn't great, and he is dealing with a banged-up O-line realistically since last year, but the last few weeks, we've noticed a lot of issues with players going in and out and injuries, kneecaps, all that really horrible stuff if you are an O-lineman. Cincinnati is averaging 22.3 fewer passing yards per away game. They are notably a much better team at home than they are on the road. So I fear that Joe Burrow is going to have an uncomfortable game, and I think he will go under his pass yards.
All right. And again, long-awaited matchup from what we saw with the DeMar Hamlin situation a few weeks ago. Thankfully, he's doing better, but a lot of people anticipating this game between the Bengals and the Bills, and then that's followed by the Cowboys and the 49ers. They had a lot of big rivalry games back in the 90s in the NFC playoffs, and they just played last season. And San Francisco won at Dallas. Now they flipped to Santa Clara for this divisional playoff game. Cowboys off the big win over the Bucs. Niners cruise past the Seahawks. So Christian McCaffrey, who was the big prize, picked up halfway through the season by San Francisco to help out that offense. Sam, what do you like with Christian McCaffrey coming up on Sunday against Dallas?
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you say that, Kevin, because I took a look at last year's game for the Niners and the Cowboys that they won when Dak was unable to convert that last second rushing play. They used Elijah Mitchell a ton in the running game. They ran him 27 times. Granted, he only gained 96 yards on those carries, but it didn't matter. They show that they're willing to really get down and dirty with their running backs. So I took Christian McCaffrey to go over 106.5 rushing and receiving yards. And again, you can find that over at BetMGM minus 120. And this is hit in 5 of CMC's last 7 games. Remember, this is the guy when used heavily, really is a good player because you can use him in nearly any formation out of the backfield. He's a very capable receiver. He's a very strong route runner as well. And we've seen him, running wheel routes, running arrow routes, running every single kind of route out of the backfield. Now, there's a very plausible scenario here where the Dallas pass rush kind of overwhelms the SFO line early, forcing Brock Purdy to bail out to CMC lines. Given that this is probably the best pass rush that the 49ers have seen thus far in the Brock Purdy era. We saw last week that Purdy could get flustered and uncomfortable and was more than willing to let CMC work when pressured. And like I said, the Dallas pass rush is probably the best unit that San Fran has seen this year. Also, you can beat Dallas on the ground. There's been 13 running backs that have had 65 or more rushing yards against them this season, and 5 running backs have gone over this 106.5 rushing and receiving number this season. Christian McCaffrey's also been playing some big snap numbers lately. In games with 74% of snaps or more with San Fran this year, which is 6, he's averaged 92 rush yards per game and 44 receiving yards per game. There have been games that Christian McCaffrey has been targeted 10 plus times, and wouldn't shock me to see him be utilized very efficiently here against the Cowboys in a game that the Niners could struggle. They've been on this massive win streak, but they could really go down to the wire against the Cowboys team that is very strong on both sides, and they'll need Christian McCaffrey to be at his best to beat them.
Yeah, and obviously they saved the best for last with the Cowboys and the 49ers coming up on Sunday evening. Should be a very interesting game. So to recap, the 6 selections, Jill is on Zay Jones over 4.5 receptions in the Jacksonville-Kansas City game. Also, Jill has Daniel Jones anytime scorer at plus 210. And Joe Burrow under 276.5 passing yards in the Bills-Bengals game on Sunday. And Sam is on Trevor Lawrence under 34.5 yards on his longest completion in the Jags game. Also, Sam has A.J. Brown over 25.5 yards on his longest reception in the Giants-Eagles game. And finally, Christian McCaffrey, as you just mentioned, over 106.5 rushing and receiving yards in the Dallas-San Francisco game coming up on Sunday. So let's put up the the handles for both Jill and Sam. You can find them on Twitter. Jill is at It's Jill Bijolle. And for Sam, Swagman95. That's right. That's where you could find them on the Twitterverse. And always great follows for both of them. And Jill and Sam, we appreciate it as always. And next week we'll be down to the Final Four. So we'll be set for some more props coming up next week. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. All right. That is Jill Bijolle, Sam Wagman. I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.